Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the channel, we are taking a look at the second edition of ZomBN1. This is another game by Paul Stapleton, and it's no secret I am very fond of Paul's games. Pauper's Ladder is my favorite adventure game of all time currently. That could change, you know, that's not set in stone, things change, but currently Pauper's Ladder is my #1 adventure game. We've also taken a look before at BN1, and this is a board game all about Brighton. And it's kind of an urban adventure game in which players are competing to be kind of tourists in the city of Brighton, in the little artistic village of Brighton, the bustling artistic village of Brighton. Very fun, very, very charming game. And ZomBN1 asks, what if zombies were overrunning the artistic village of Brighton? And it is, again, a very charming game. Like almost all of Stapleton's games, Paul's games that I've played before, I would say the best way to describe them is charming. Let's read a little bit about ZomBN1. There's a crisis on the streets of Brighton. The dead won't stay dead. What started as rumors and concerned whispers about the potential effect on property prices is now a full-grown state of emergency. The military is losing its grip, and not one of those diseased shamblers remembers it was once vegan. Fortunately, there's one seat left on the last train out of town, but whose name is on it? So yeah, really, really neat little game. It takes kind of the same city map as BN1, changes the colors up a little bit, and adds zombies to the mix. Now, at its core, ZomBN1 is a very competitive game. And it pits a zombie player against survivors, but the survivors are also competing. And you are trying to compete for a certain number of victory points, which you will keep track on a victory point tracker around the board. And one of the main ways you are trying to gain victory points is by completing a series of objectives. Each time you complete an objective by moving to that objective and then doing what it says, you gain 3 victory points. The survivors will have their own pool of, or each survivor will have its own hand of objective cards or its own objective in order to reach to and then do what it says to gain victory points. The zombie player is trying to get 3 of their zombies to any of the objectives on the board, and those are the objectives owned by the zombies or the objectives owned by the survivors, and they need to get 3 zombies to that location in order to gain those victory points. There are also other ways you can gain victory points by having certain encounters or by participating in combat. If a survivor player kills a zombie, they gain an additional victory point, and if a zombie player does a wound to a survivor, they also gain a victory point. So this game is very, very competitive. There is a lot of take that. If your group likes competitive games, then this might be the game for them. Typically, I don't like competitive games. So over the last week, I've been working on some solo rules to play this game solo. And so far, I think it has worked pretty well. And we'll kind of go through some of those solo rules that I have developed, and I'm still kind of working through them. But let's take a little closer look at some of the components here. So you will have a number of different survivors that you can play as. And one of the survivors here that I have fallen in love with, we have a lot in common. Well, not a lot in common. We have one thing in common, and that is Melita Dennett. She's age 25. She's a disc jockey, and she really likes Primal Scream. And hey, you know what? I love Primal Scream. As a matter of fact, Screamadelica is an album on my top 100. But each of the survivors will have a starting tile, a starting location that they will start on in the city of Brighton. They will have a couple of different special abilities, and they will come with some starting loot. So Melita here, she comes with a starting loot and a starting sneak card. The sneak cards are the main element of Take That, and they can be very mean. This game can be very mean, but it still has that kind of charming personality that makes it all fun. So I am playing right now as Melita, and she has gained some additional loot cards. She has gained a military pass, a cycling helmet, and a deck chair. And she also has this sneak card here, which is the Anonymous Benefactor. I am also playing as Derek Bedford, 44, a part-time busker. And Derek also started with a sneak card and a loot card. I have used my sneak card, but Derek is also armed here, or also has a provision in his possession. The other survivors are Marcus Hancock, a 52-year-old credit clerk. We have Annie Hatcher, a 39-year-old historian. Kevin Bramhill, a 25-year-old Territorial Army veteran or volunteer, and Diane Hadford, a 35-year-old yoga teacher. So those are the main survivors that the players can play as. And then the zombies have a whole pool of different zombie standees that they can use. And man, these zombie standees are so cool. I love the art in this game. I believe the art was done by Paul Stapleton. The art in ZomBN1 was not done by Paul Stapleton, so it looks a little bit different, but I think this art was all done by Paul there. And then here are the other standees for the other survivors here. And then here is Melita here. She's working her way over towards one of the objectives. And then here is Derek here. And so let's see, what else do we have? So as we are moving around in a normal game, you will be moving towards objectives. And each player will have one objective, but the objectives are known. The objectives are kind of a pool of objectives that the zombie player or the survivors can work towards. The zombie will have their own objective, and then the survivors will each have one of their own. An objective is a named tile on the board, and for the survivors to get victory points, they need to move to that tile, read the little story, and then do what it says. Sometimes you will have to roll dice. Sometimes you might have to engage in combat, and sometimes you will get a benefit. It's usually a good thing to reach your objective, because not only do you gain objective points, but you will also gain some kind of benefit. So those are all of the yellow spaces on the board. The orange spaces on the board are the various encounters, and there are a whole mess of random encounters. You can meet celebrities, you can find abandoned supplies, you can find different companions. Some of the companions, it's kind of a pick up and deliver. Some of them need to get to certain locations. And if you make it to that location, then you gain some victory points. Some of the companions, like Disco Pete here, he just joins you on your adventure, on your zombie slaying adventure, and will give you a particular bonus. You can find a horse. There are some blank ones, so you can make your own. We have a trapped survivor that we can find, a convoy that can help you travel, an abandoned airdrop. The military might make airdrops and you can find more powerful weapons. A panic training, you can become hungry. There's a blank companion, another celebrity you can find. The celebrities are usually based off of actual citizens, actual people that live in Brighton, same as ZomBN1. So there are local celebrities that you can interact with. We also have these shop spaces, and when you land on a shop space, when a survivor lands on a shop space, you can draw a loot card. And there's all kinds of different things like didgeridoos, a fake ID, provisions, an acoustic guitar, a spy cam, a tactical map, medical supplies, mega pet pills. So all kinds of different things that you can find in these loot shops there. And when the military, when they make one of those airdrops, you will place an airdrop token on a certain spot on the board, and then when the survivors move to that airdrop spot, they can draw one of the airdrop cards. And these are all powerful ranged weapons that can help the survivors attack zombies. The second edition also comes with a couple of expansions, and those are the survivor perks and the zombie perks. And so these are special abilities that you can pass out at the beginning of the game that will make the survivors stronger. They will give them additional things that they can do. And the zombie perks will make the zombies stronger. So these are just additional actions that the zombie player can take on their turn. Another small expansion that second edition comes with is this nightmare deck. And this is kind of a ticking time bomb, whereas the players earn more victory points, more nightmares will come out and will make the zombies a little more powerful. And so these are kind of ongoing game effects that can change things from one turn to the next. And so in a typical game, the players are trying to get to their objectives. The zombie is trying to get to any of the objectives. The players want to gain 50 victory points and then make it to one of the pink squares around Brighton Station. And the first survivor to do that wins the game. The zombie player is trying to gain 50 victory points and get 3 zombies to Brighton Station in order to overrun Brighton Station and prevent the players from escaping. Combat is pretty simple. You can have PvP combat, so in a typical game, the survivors can attack each other. Again, there's a lot of take that elements, but the the survivors can also attack the zombies, and the zombies can attack the players. The one player rolls one die, the other player rolls another die. You add any bonuses. Whoever has the highest total wins. If the totals are tied, then it is a standoff and there isn't a victor. The main component besides PvP combat that adds to that take that element are these sneak cards. And these are cards that you can play on your turn that will give you benefits, and you can also play on other players in order to kind of stymie them from doing well, from stealing items to making them move less, and from preventing them from overcoming their objectives, prevent them from gaining victory points. On a survivor's turn, you will roll 2d6 and you can move that many spaces around the board as you work your way around Brighton. The zombie player rolls 2d6 and then that's their total movement that they can divide up to all of the zombies on the board. There are also these black spaces here that have a zombie face. Those are zombie spawn spaces, and at the end of the turn, of the zombie's turn, they will spawn one zombie on any space of their choice that doesn't have a survivor on it. And there are also other ways that the zombie player can spawn zombies. We also have some special locations such as the police station, so survivors can get arrested and pay a price there. When the survivors take too many wounds, they can go to the hospital in order to revive. And we have some other things like that. One of my favorite things about this game is the board and all of the art on the board. I want to just kind of like move in here and just show you some of the really, really great detail on this board. It kind of makes me feel like I'm looking at a kind of a Where's Waldo drawing here. There are so many neat little details. It also kind of reminds me of Sergio Aragonés, his marginalia drawings that he would do in Mad Magazine with all of the little details. Just super, super cool. The art really does add to that overwhelmingly charming feel of this game. So as far as playing solo, the main thing that I've had to kind of overcome is that take that element, because that does kind of strip away a lot of the game. And so as I am playing and I'm coming across cards that are only used for some kind of PvP, that are only used for a take that element, I'm just kind of removing them from the decks and I'll keep them separate for when I want to play solo. I would love to see a third edition of this game come out with a full co-op or solo mode, because I think the game is actually better. I have a hard time imagining playing this in the competitive mode. I just don't think I have the right game group for it, but I know some game groups really do like that ultra competitive take that element of board games. But it actually hasn't been very difficult to come up with some rudimentary zombie AI and some different things to change to make this game playable and fun as a solo player. And I've actually had quite a bit of fun playing this over the last week. But a lot of that take that elements are found in this sneak deck. And so this is typically the deck that I've had to do the most kind of customizing with in order to make this work as a solo game. So my solo objectives here, so these are some of my rules here. The objective is the survivors in total as a group need to gain 25 victory points per survivor. So each survivor doesn't have to gain 25 on their own, but I'm playing with 2 survivors. So I need to get a total of 50 victory points. Right now, Milita has 7 and Derek has 0. Derek's not having a very good time, so I'm up to 7 victory points there. And there are always 3 objective cards out in play, and there are no individual objective cards. So if this is a world state, a group of world objectives that the zombies are working towards and that the players, the survivors, are working towards. So right now my 3 objectives, one is at the Booth Museum, one is at the race course, and one is at the Palace Pier. So this is my kind of like my world quests there. And I have put a red disc here, red token, on each one of those objective points. And one is just off camera here. Let me move this down a little bit here. And one of those here is at pier, the Palace Pier, and there's already 1 zombie on there. So I need to get 2, the zombies need to get 2 more additional zombies there in order to gain those 3 points. I have 1 here at the race course, and then 1 here is up here just off camera at the Booth Museum. And so I am playing together as my 2 survivors trying to get those victory points. And here, so the zombies. So the zombies in my co-op or solo mode, they do not use sneak cards. So I have kind of completely removed that element from the game. The players, the survivors can use sneak cards. But again, I am removing the ones that are specifically for PvP. Now, some of them will have a triangle at the bottom. And if you're ever playing with only 1 survivor player and 1 zombie player, you remove all of those. So I immediately removed all of those from the deck. And as I come across others that don't really work in a solo or co-op mode, I am also removing those. I also removed this one encounter dance training. This is kind of a funny card, where a local hugging workshop is teaching people to dance their way out of danger. All the other players must stand up and dance like their lives depend on it. Anyone who refuses must give you either a sneak card, a loot card, or give you 2 of their points. And so that's a very competitive card. So I've also removed that from my deck. So zombies don't use sneak cards. I am using the Zombie Nightmare cards and the zombie perk cards. The zombie nightmare is actually used with this red token here, and you put that every 10 spaces on the victory track board, and whenever one of the score counters passes that spot, you draw a nightmare card. So this is kind of a ticking time bomb where the zombies are getting stronger as the game progresses. And I think that works perfectly for a solo game, that kind of heating up the elements, making things more difficult as the game goes on. And these zombie nightmares, I'm saying that there can be 3 in play at a time, and these will give the zombies different powers. I am also playing with the zombie perks and the survivor perks, but we'll talk a little bit about the survivor. I haven't quite figured out how to introduce the survivor perks yet. I guess we could start with some at the beginning of the game, but the zombie perks, those will come out during this new kind of phase that I've added at the beginning of the zombie turn, and that is called the zombie action chart, or the ZAC, the Z-A-C. And so at the beginning of the zombie turn, they are going to roll 2d6 and then do what it says on this chart. So they can draw a random nightmare card, they can draw a random zombie perk, a random survivor is arrested. You know, the police are out there kind of doing the wrong thing by putting the vigilante survivors in jail, trying to maintain the peace. If a roll is 7, all is well, nothing happens. A D8 is the zombie player gets to destroy a barricade. At the beginning of the game, the survivors get to put these barricades on any white space. The survivors can move through the barricades, but the zombies cannot. And so having the ability for the zombies to destroy those barricades is beneficial to the zombie player. And basically playing co-op is you just kind of have to play the zombies in the best way possible to do the most harm to the survivors. If you roll a 9, you spawn D3 zombies. A 10, a random survivor loses a random sneak card. 11, a random survivor loses a random loot card. 12, a random survivor loses a random airdrop. Those airdrop cards can be very powerful. As far as zombie movements go, they will always move towards an objective first if they can reach an objective or if an objective is closer. If not, then they will move towards a survivor. Also, if a zombie ever lands on a zombie spawn spot, then they get to spawn an additional zombie. And at the end of the zombie turn, like rules as written, you spawn one zombie on a zombie spot and you spawn it on the empty spot closest to either a survivor or an objective. And then finally, I forgot I wanted to add this rule here where if a survivor ever takes all of their wounds and they go to the hospital, then the survivors in total lose D6 victory points. And so that's kind of how I've been playing this past week. And you know what? It's actually been a lot of fun. And I think the game does work pretty well, especially because zombies are such a kind of a brainless type of enemy. And so it does work to kind of automate them. So let's play a turn here. So let's play with Derek. So Derek Bradford. Here, Derek has a provision. Derek has no wounds. Special different abilities here. Derek can discard a sneak card to remove a zombie from the board. That's pretty good. And remarkable healing. When Derek removes a wound, he removes an extra wound. So Derek is better at healing. Let's read Derek's little backstory here. Derek was on his way to Concord 2 to busk some trad rock standards to a queue of Nero funk fans. He swung his guitar into life just as a pair of blood-flecked jaws made for his neck. The swift move saved his life, and the zombie's teeth shattered against the shaft of the battered instrument instead. And that's when Derek realized there ain't no cure for the zombie time blues. Okay, so Derek is over here, and Derek was making his way over to the race course in order to get to that that objective there. So it's Derek's movement turn. So let's roll for Derek. And Derek rolled a 6, and that's a double 3. As the rules are written, if you ever roll doubles, you get to draw a sneak card. So let's draw the top card of the sneak card, and let's see if it's something that we can use or if it needs to be discarded because it's too competitive. So this is the defense plan. Play this on your turn. You can move up to 3 barricades to any unoccupied white tiles. Okay, so I can move the barricades around. We do have one destroyed barricade because the zombie player was able to destroy one of the barricades on their last turn. And there's actually down here, there is an objective that already has one zombie on it, and that's at Pier Place here. And there are 2 close zombies, and so I'm trying to barricade that objective off. And so I'm going to place this objective back on that white space there, making it impossible for any more zombies to move there. Now, one other thing that you can do in the competitive game is if a survivor owned an objective card and there was no way that they could get to that objective before the zombies, they could surrender that location to the zombies, giving them some points. And so I'm also saying that as a action, as a thing the players can do on their turn, the survivors, is they can, if they want, they can surrender one of these to give the zombies three victory points. If, you know, there's no way that they could get to an objective far away in time, you know, so that we can kind of cycle in and out different objectives. I think that just makes the game flow a little better. But we don't need to do that right now. We are just going to be moving. So I rolled a 6, and we're trying to get to the race course. So we will move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We land on an encounter spot. So let's have a random encounter. The unicycle violinist. Safely above the teeth and claws, a plaintive whine is drawing the shuffling dead away. You can move any 2 zombies in your quarter of the board up to 3 tiles in any direction. They ignore any survivors they land on or pass. Okay, so my quadrant of the board here is right here, so I can move 3 zombies. Let's see, up to 3 tiles away. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. And let's move this zombie 1, 2, 3 like that. Okay, I don't know if that really helps. Again, that probably is a little more helpful if you're playing competitively, because you want to be moving the zombies towards the other players, so they will have to deal with them. But here we can maybe move them away from us, or maybe move them away from objectives. So there could be a little strategy in how you handle that. But that is Derek's turn. Turns are very, very quick in this game. Okay, so now it's Melita Dennett's turn. Let's read her little backstory. Melita was lugging vinyl into one of Brighton's more retro-loving nightclubs when a bouncer tried to bite her nose off. She batted him away with a Primal Scream LP and hid behind the decks till he went for the cloakroom attendant instead. She emerged from the gloom to a fire-ravaged, blood-strewn hell. And that was when Melita realized no amount of Britpop trivia would save her now. So she can carry 6 loot cards instead of 4. Usually the max is 4. And once per game, instead of rolling to move, Melita can travel directly to any empty white tile. Melita also has this anonymous benefactor. Play during your turn, either remove a zombie or wound a survivor. So this is some kind of hitman that Melita has hired. I'm going to use this card. I'm going to have her destroy this zombie who is on this objective down here below at the Palace Pier. So somebody takes a headshot at this zombie, and so we have removed that threat. And so now I will discard that card. Okay, so now it's Melita's movement. And I think Melita is actually going to be moving down to Palace Pier. And she rolls a 10. Okay, nice. A nice big number there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so she lands on a white tile, and so that is nothing. Those are just kind of safe spaces. Okay, so now it's the zombies' turn. And the first thing we want to do on the zombies' turn is we want to roll on our ZAC chart here, the zombie action chart. Let's see what we roll. And an 8. Okay, an 8. Destroy a barricade. Okay, well, I'm going to continue to destroy these barricades down here because there's still a zombie next to the Palace Pier. And so I think this zombie is going to destroy this barricade there. Okay, so they might be able to move in now. And so now we roll for zombie movement, and we have 8 points of zombie movement to divide up into any of the zombies. The maximum number of maximum number of spaces a zombie can move is 6. So let's move this zombie here. Look at that. It's like a dad and his 2 zombie kids. Oh man, that's so wicked. So this zombie here, this this family unit of zombies will move 1, 2, 3 onto Palace Pier. And so remember, the zombies need to get 3 zombies at an objective in order to gain the victory points. So that was 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was 5. Yep, okay, so that works there. So this zombie is also moving there. I think Melita will be able to get there first, but in order to gain those objective points, she needs to kill the zombies. However, it's the end of the zombie's turn now. Now the zombie gets to spawn. Unfortunately, there's a zombie spawning spot right next to the pier. And so that zombie is going to come up here. This is going to be very dangerous here. I might have wanted Derek to come down here and help her, but I think that's about it. Okay, so let's play another turn here. We'll play as Derek here. And a double 1. Okay, so Derek gets to draw another sneak card and file sharing. Play this when another player scores points. You score those points as well. Hey, that just kind of doubles up our points. So when we reach an objective, or when another player, so when Melita here, when she gets some points, I can play this to double those points. That's pretty awesome. That's a really good card for a co-op game there. But now he can only move 2, and he'll move to the graveyard. There's nothing going on at the graveyard right now, so that is the end of Derek's turn. Let's take Melita here, and a 9. Okay, so she can move here. So let's see, how many spaces is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so she has moved into that spot. And there is a zombie on that spot, so we need to have combat between Melita and the little zombie father and his 2 zombie kids. And let's see what we have here. We have a cycling helmet, And this is once per turn. You can force your opponent to re-roll their dice in a fight they win, so that can help her out here. And we also have a deck chair, which is used as a weapon, and I get to add a +1 to my attack. So the survivors, they roll the red die, so Milita will be rolling this die and adding 1. The zombie player rolls both the white die and then chooses the highest number. So let's see. All right, so we have a 2, a 3, and we have a 6 and a 5. Okay, so I'm going to use my cycle helmet, and that's once per turn, so I get to keep that. I don't have to discard that. And I'm going to force the zombie player to re-roll. And, ooh, no, that was bad. Okay, so Milita, she lost that combat, so she takes 1 wound. I haven't taken any wounds yet. You can take up to 4 wounds before a survivor has to go to the hospital. And so there we go. Okay, so now it is the zombie's turn. And at the beginning of the zombie turn, we will roll the zombie action, the zombie action chart, the ZAC chart, and we roll a 6. A 6 is a random survivor is arrested. Oh no, so the police are coming in, putting an end to this vigilante justice that is happening. So on a 1, 2, or 3, we will arrest Derek. And yeah, so Derek gets arrested. He was hanging out in the graveyard. So Derek goes to the police station. And at the police station, we have to do what it says here. So Derek is wounded in the process. So Derek takes a wound. Okay, so now it's the zombie's turn. We will roll to move. And, ooh, man, that's a lot of movement for the zombies. Okay, so the zombie can move 1, 2, 3, 4, see, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not enough to get there, but on the next turn, that objective is going to be overrun. The zombies are going to gain 3 victory points. I could, on the next survivor turn, just choose to relinquish that objective, to surrender it to the zombie player, giving them the victory points, and then move Milita out. Because as a survivor, if you start your turn on a space with a zombie, you can immediately move out instead of encountering those zombies. So yeah, it's been pretty fun making some solo/co-op rules. I think I want to play this with some friends in this mode to see if it really does work, but I think it has worked pretty well, and I have been having a lot of fun with this game. Again, I just love Paul Stapleton. I love just his whole kind of outlook on game design. They're always very simple. They're always very straightforward. They're not complex, but they give me everything that I look for in the kind of board game that I like to play. We have a whole mess of random encounters. I mean, these random encounters are so much fun. The objectives have all kinds of little story snippets and different things. So if you were here in Preston Manor, some marauding tourists stumble out of the manor onto the gravel driveway. The zombie player places 2 zombies on this tile. You can fight them as normal or run away. If you run away, roll a die, and then certain things will happen, and then your turn ends. You can go to the meeting house, Stamner Park, the level. A determined group of kids is turning the park into a series of entertaining zombie traps. Will you help them or steal their supplies? So you have some choices when you're trying to overcome the objectives as well. The loot cards are pretty fun. The sneak cards is where it gets a little kind of iffy. You know, it might even be better in a co-op or solo version of this game to really not use these at all. I don't know if that would be strip out too much of the fun, too much of the interaction. But yeah, there's a lot to love about this game, especially the art, especially the way this game looks. I mean, come on, that single father with the zombie kids, that's killer. That's absolutely awesome. All of the art on the cards, all of the little detailed art on the board is so cool. The colors are really nice. Yeah, I love charming games, and this is a charming zombie game, and I don't think there are a lot of charming zombie games. A lot of times zombie games go for a more dark and kind of sinister vibe, but this one is really fun, and I have been enjoying it. I hope, Paul, I know you watch my videos. Man, a 3rd edition with the focus on solo and co-op would be amazing. I would love that. And hey, if you want to use some of my ideas, let's talk. Let's make it happen. So, all right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at ZomBN1. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.